So that is the biggest advantage of a group. And in groups, members also reach agreements. They have disagreements through various forms of interaction. So we can't say that a group could see, just now the previous slide I told you, groups where there is proper coordination, where there are amicable relations between members. Such groups are very productive, but that doesn't mean that good groups don't have disagreements amongst them, right? Groups have agreements, they have disagreements, right? All these are part and parcel of the working of a group. In fact, if there is a group where there is no disagreement, then it means that members of that group are not actually thinking creatively and innovatively, right? Next, let us look at some of the characteristics of groups. So a group consists of, like we already said, 2 or more persons who interact with each other. See, interaction is important. Where there is no interaction, either face to face or through some electronic media, right? Then that cannot be called as a group. So interaction could either be face-to-face physical interaction or virtual interaction through some online media, right? Another important characteristic of a group is that group members have reciprocal influence on each other. That means group members influence each other in the group. So every member of a group influences others and is influenced by others in the group. Now, in what way does this influence work? What is the way in which this influence works? See, sometimes people learn new skills from their team members, right? That is a sort of influence. Sometimes people learn, or imbibe some personality traits, some attitudes, some thinking patterns from their team members. This is also a kind of influence. And apart from this, there is influence on work as well. So if I am a member of a group and if I want to do my job really well, then I will have to be dependent on somebody else. That means the nature and quality of my work is influenced by the nature and quality of somebody else's work. See, take for example, let us take a very simple example of manufacturing a table. So take for example, there are 3 people who are involved in it. There is one person who cuts the wood, second person who assembles the wood, and the third person who paints it. So take for example, I am the person who paints that wood. So after I paint the wood, if the table has to be of very good quality, if the table has to be very, very appealing, very good to look at, then is it enough if I alone do my job well? No. First, the person who has cut the wood should cut it really well, proper dimensions, neatly, smoothly. Then the person who is assembling these different parts of wood has to do it well. Only then my turn comes, right? So take for example, the person who has cut it didn't cut it properly. The edges are not smooth. And the person who attached them didn't attach it properly. Now, even if I paint it really well, also the final outcome would not be good. So that is what you mean by every member in a group is influenced by other members. And similarly, this member also influences other members of the group, right? The next characteristic of a group is people develop mutual perceptions and emotions. That means, see, they recognize each other, they develop emotions towards one another. So, one of the major reasons for stress is individuals is work stress, right? Work stress. Work stress is a source of major stress for individuals. That means whatever is happening at workplace has a major impact on an individual's stress levels. Why is it so? Because workplace is a very important aspect of every individual. That means an individual is emotionally involved with his colleagues, emotionally involved with his workplace. Say, take for example, I'm walking on a street. Somebody says something mean to me. Somebody says something bad to me. Will I get affected by that? I will not. I will just say mad person. I don't know why he's just shouting like that. Or stupid person, he has no other work to do, and I just pass off without paying any attention to that. But the same thing, whatever that person said, if my colleague tells me the same thing, will I still be unaffected? No, I won't be. If my colleagues, if same thing my colleague tells me, that would really bother me much. Why? Because workplace is an important aspect of everybody's life. What happens at workplace has a very deep, profound impact on individuals, right? And then the next characteristic is every group has a formal leader. Uh, um, every formal leader as well as informal leader also. Okay, every group has a formal leader as well as an informal leader. Now, who's the formal leader? Formal leader is one who's selected by the organization. Who's informal leader? Informal leader is someone who's selected informally by the members of a group. Now, it is not mandatory that every group should have one formal and one informal leader. Maybe in most of the cases, there could be just one person who could both be the formal leader as well as the informal leaders, right? But maybe in large groups, sometimes it so happens that, there is one person who's not formally designated as leader by the organization, but he takes on those leadership responsibilities, which is also reciprocated by other members of the group, right? So such person is called as an informal leader, right? But sometimes it could be just one person only. Formal person only could be the informal person also, right? Now, coming to what is it that group members do in a group? See, every group member, every individual performs a specific role, right? Which influences expectations of group members from each other. That means what is the role structure? Role structure is a set of defined rules and interrelationships among those rules that the group or team members define and accept. So these roles are defined by the team members and accepted by them. So they decide who is to do what, whose work is this, whose responsibility is that. All such kind of things are defined by the group, right? Now, every group also has group norms, right? So what is a group norm? A norm is a standard of behavior that the group accepts and expects of its members. That means there are some, certain behaviors are acceptable, certain behaviors are not acceptable. There are certain behaviors that you expect from the group members. So that is known as a norm. A norm is a standard of behavior that the group accepts and expects of its members, right? And now these norms could be about how people talk, how people dress, how people address one another. See, like for example, if you look at MNCs, in MNCs, they call each other by their first name. They call each other by their first name. So even a team members also don't call their team leaders as sir or ma'am. They just address them by their first names. Whereas if you look at maybe government organizations, public sector undertakings, or educational institutions, colleagues don't call each other by name. They call each other saying sir or ma'am. Sometimes even people who are working at the same hierarchical level, they also don't call each other by their names. But whereas in MNCs, even a junior member also calls a senior member by their first name. So that is acceptable there. Maybe there, if see, take for example, tomorrow you join an MNC and everybody else is calling their colleagues by their first name and you call them by sir or ma'am, you might appear strange and weird to them, which over a period of time even you might change, right? So every group has certain norms, right? This and even about working conditions also. The next one is the next characteristic of a group is a group maintains stability through group cohesiveness. Now, what is group cohesiveness? That also we will discuss in detail, right? So, group cohesiveness is is the extent or the degree of attraction or mutual liking that members of a group have towards one another, right? So what groups do is groups maintain stability through this group cohesiveness, right? Um, the next one is members work for common interests and goals, like, right? So the very first slide, when I was talking to you about the definition of group, then itself it says that, what is group? Group is a collection of people who are working towards a common goal or a common objective, right? Okay. Next thing. Just a second. 1 second. Yeah. Next thing. Why is that people join groups? Why do people form themselves into groups? See, one thing that you have to understand is there are two types of groups, formal groups and informal groups. Formal groups are those groups that are created by the organization. Informal groups are those groups which are created by the members themselves. So formal groups, why are they created? Like, why does an organization create groups or departments? In order to get the work done. That is simple, right? Now, coming to informal groups, why do people want to join groups? Why do people form groups, right? Why is it that people don't want to be alone? Why is it that they want to be a part of a group? Okay. Now, this understanding will go a long way in helping us understand human psychology. See, man, human being, man, from times immemorial has always lived in groups. See, remember prehistoric era, caveman, when man used to live in caves and hunt animals and things like that. Did he live alone? No, he lived in groups. These groups over a period of time became villages, settlements, right? So man never wanted to be alone. Man always, since the prehistoric time, all the evidence tells us that man always lived in groups. Why? Why is it that people want to be in groups? The first and the foremost reason is security, protection. See, take for example, you're traveling to a new country, you're traveling to a new place. You would want somebody else along with you. You would prefer, because you feel confident and safe if there is one more person along with you. If somebody is traveling late in the night, right? They would prefer to have a companion with them, right? So all this is, if you try to understand the reason behind it, all this goes back to the prehistoric era, when cavemen thought that only when they live in groups they can protect themselves against wild animals or um, environmental calamities, right? So that is the reason. Since then, human beings always wanted to be part of groups, right? The next reason is, see, being a part of a group gives a person a sense of self-esteem, self-worth. So if you are not a member of any group, that means you don't have a friends group, you don't have a colleagues group, you don't have your cousins or relatives group. You feel low. You feel, you feel that, maybe you're not good enough. You're not important for others. You don't have those, required qualities to be a part of a group. So being a part of a group makes you feel worthy, makes you feel important, right? That is also a reason why people join groups. See, um, in earlier times, I don't know, maybe in some rural areas even today, if one person in a village does something wrong, right? What is the punishment that is given to that person? that person is ostracized. Ostracized means nobody in the village would interact with that person. Nobody in the village would talk to that person. So nobody will go to their house, and that person will not be invited to any person's house. Why is this a punishment? This is such a big punishment because you are telling that person that, see, you're not a part of this group, you're not a part of any group. And that hurts because being a part of a group gives a person a sense of self-worth, right? Then, social needs of people, like, friendship, social relations, all these things are possible only when you have a group, right? The next one is group represents power. See, things that cannot be achieved individually, they become possible with group effort, right? See, not just personal goals as well as group goals. Both of them at times might be possible only when you are a part of a group. See, take for example, I live in a colony where now I want to increase the greenery in that colony. I want to plant more trees. Can I do it alone? It is very difficult. So what would I do? Maybe I will ask two or three or four, five more of my neighbors who are like-minded people, and we all come together and we say, okay, now we will plant trees. So one of us will go and fetch the trees. Somebody will arrange for a gardener to, plant those trees. Things become easier. If I say, okay, I want to plant 100 trees in my colony without taking anybody's help, that will be very, very difficult. Some, not just group goals, even personal goals also, right? Even personal goals. Take for example, I my personal goal is to earn more, earn more salary, right? How is this possible? If I'm working for an organization and my personal goal is to earn more salary, how is this possible? This is possible if the organization in which I am earning, in which I am working, makes more profits, right? I want more salary. That is only possible when the organization makes more profits. But can I alone help the organization make more profits? No. Everybody has to work in order to make the organization make more profits. So, in order to fulfill my personal goal, that is better salary, better incentives, better bonus, I will have to work with everyone else as a group. Only then it is possible. Right? So these are the reasons for group formation. Then affiliation is also one main reason. See, what people usually do is they enjoy the company of those people who have common interests with them, right? Common hobbies, similar backgrounds, right? So people enjoy such company of such people. That is also one reason why people want to join groups. Another reason is, see, group membership tends to give you an identity of who you are, right? So sometimes being a part of certain groups gives you a sense of identity, right? So it is all about, see, take for example, you buy a new dress, right? When do you wear this dress? When you are meeting people or when you are alone at home, right? You don't wear it when you're alone at home. You only wear this new expensive dress when you're meeting others, when there are so many others. Why? See, only when others see your dress, only when maybe some of them praise and say, no, it is good, it gives you satisfaction. If you are alone at home, there's nobody. Will you wear that new dress, look at yourself in the mirror and get happiness and derive satisfaction from it? No, you don't. So, a group provides those others who will laugh with you, who will praise you, who will admire you, or sometimes who will also give you constructive feedback, right? So therefore, they say a group gives you a sense of identity. And huddling, this is one term that is very commonly used these days, right? So one more reason why individuals want to join groups is for huddling. See, uh, executives, employees working in an organization, they make use of informal get-togethers. Okay, and these informal get-togethers are called as huddles. Right? These informal get-togethers are called as huddles. These are what are these huddles? These huddles are like very close, intimate meetings, task related, task oriented meetings of employees who are trying to get something done. And what this huddling enables them to do is huddling enables them to deal with all important matters and have a lot of clarity, right? It also reduces hierarchical communication channels. Okay, A goes to B goes to C goes to D, and then talks. No, all of them are together at one place, uh, uh, in face-to-face interaction. So everything is resolved there itself, and there is no scope for misunderstandings, right? Then organization charts also represent, real duties. Like, huddling can compensate for a lack of leadership by taking collective as well as unofficial responsibility of getting the things done. Right? So this is what huddling is. Another reason why people want to join is because of interpersonal attraction. Right? What is meant by this interpersonal attraction? See, there is a basic need in human beings for care, help, and being useful to others. So when people have, similar attitudes, personality, financial positions, values, beliefs, they tend to become a part of the same group. They like to, interact with one another. And such kind of frequent interactions, what they do is they promote these similar values and beliefs, which is very comfortable for people, right? And the next one is, people might join groups because they're attracted by the group activities. Like, for example, there is a group that is into religious activities, or that is into charitable activities, or there is a group that, plays badminton every weekend. So you like playing badminton. So you would join that group, or you like doing charitable activities. So you would join that group. So though group activities attract membership, interpersonal attraction is also very, very important. So a person may choose to forego the activity than join a group with low personal interaction. That means if the person is not attracted to the group, then even though because of the common activity, he would not be interested. Right? Now, uh, group norms. What are group norms? Group norms have very strong influence on behavior of members. Norms are standards that are informally accepted by the group. See, they are informal. They are unwritten. They're not written anywhere. They're there in the minds of people. That's it. Right? Uh, though they are not written anywhere, though they are not official, they still have a very, very strong impact on the group members. They're implicitly binding on the group members. And they evolve over a period of time. Right? So if a member is a part of a group, it means that he has implicitly, right, indirectly has agreed to all the norms of the group. Right? So take for example, there is an office where though the office time is 9:30, everybody comes at 10 o'clock. So there is this new person who's joined the organization. So initially, few days he will say, "Arey, the time official time is 9:30. Why is everyone coming at 10 o'clock?" So he comes at 9:30. But what happens over a period of time? Over a period of time, he sees everybody else. They're all coming at 10 o'clock, and nobody is objecting to that. So he thinks, okay, so this is the norm here, and he also starts coming at 10 o'clock. Right? So over a period of time, everybody gets attracted to the norms. Right? Then let us look at the payoff. What is the payoff involved in being a part of a group? Right? See, people people's behavior depends on what, according to them, is the reward for being a part of that group. So, what is the perceived reward? So, if one type of behavior has a higher payoff, that means if it is rewarded more, they repeat that behavior. Okay. So researchers have shown that when payoff is high, people tend to collaborate more. That means when they feel that, they're going to get more reward, then uh, they show more interest in being a part of a group, right? So therefore, achievement motivation, that the motivation to achieve something, that desire to achieve something, is supposed to have very high correlation with competitive behavior, right? So that is about the payoff. Um, then perceived power, right? See, this is one condition which contributes to collaboration in a group. If um, if a group has the power to reward or the power to punish, right? Then that group is said to be powerful. So punishment, what do you mean? What do we mean by punishment? How can a group punish? See, punishment may be in the form of depriving a person of the reward which he or she is likely to get. So this may be done by holding back information or misleading the other person. See, take for example, there are four members who are sitting and talking and discussing. A fifth person comes, they stop talking. They don't want to share anything with that person. So that is all. That is punishment. That is also punishment. So you're depriving that person of the benefit of being part of that group, right? So, every person who's at the lowest level in an organization, they can use negative power to create annoying situations. Like, they can delay matters, they can hold back information, or they can give information which creates misunderstandings and things like that, right? So if people in an organization, they clearly perceive that they have power which is positive in nature, then they may be able to contribute to the achievement of organizational goals. So that is the power of positive perception, right? So, but one thing is, it is also important that members should realize that there are others involved in the situation who also have power, and this power could be both positive as well as negative, right? The next one is mutual trust. So along with the perception of each other's power, it is important that parties do not use power against each other. So there should be mutual trust, and this mutual trust leads to cooperation, right? So what does trust indicate? Trust indicates a high probability that power of the concerned party or individual will not be used in any wrong way, will not be used for would only be used for the benefit of each other, right? So this combination of perceived power and mutual trust, it leads to cooperation, right? The next topic that we're going to discuss is stages of group formation or stages of group development, right? See, whenever we see groups performing or doing something, we should understand that there is a history behind it. There is a history behind it. That means there are some stages, there are some processes through which this group has passed, and today it has come to this stage where it is performing. So the stages of group formation or the stages of group development, they were proposed by a person known as Bruce Tuckman in 1965. He said that there are 5 stages of group development. What are those 5 stages? Forming stage, storming stage, norming stage, performing stage, and adjourning stage. Okay? Forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Right? So, if you pay careful attention, stage 4 is performing stage. That means this is the stage where members actually perform. So, what did I tell you just now? Whenever you see a group performing, okay, whenever you see a group performing, it does not mean that the group started here. There are few stages, there are some processes through which this group has passed. That is what I told you, right? So look at this figure also here. Stage 4 is performing. That means this group has passed through 3 stages and is now actually performing, right? So whenever, so why do we need to understand uh, or study this model is, see, when to take for example, you are a team leader. Okay, tomorrow you become a team leader, a group, a manager, a leader. You constitute a group, you form a group. The moment you form a group, if you expect the group to start functioning, start performing, then you are unrealistic. That is not possible. Today you form a group, today you constitute a group, and you expect the group to start working today. That is unrealistic. That will not happen. A group has to go through various stages. So it is just like, you see a small child walking. There are so many things that have to happen before the child has to actually walk. So similarly, this also. So there are a lot of phases that a group or a team has to go through before it has to grow. It has to, face challenges. It has to, find its own solutions. It has to plan for its work. There are so many phases that it has to go through, right? So a team cannot be expected to perform right when it is formed. It takes some time, patience, so some support and efforts to go through these various stages of groups, right? So the first stage is called as the forming stage. This stage is also known as the orientation stage. So this is the stage where the group just starts to come together, and this stage is characterized by a lot of anxiety and uncertainty. See, take for example, think of a time when you joined a new school, a new college, or a new organization. On the very first day, you must have been very anxious. You must have been very uncertain. I don't know whom to talk to. I don't know how to talk to. You must have gone through this, right? That is, every group that is newly formed goes through this stage, right? Uh, so every team member's behavior is is driven by his desire to be accepted by other members of the group. So you will not see any kind of conflict or controversy or misunderstandings during this stage, because all the members have just begun to form impressions of each other, and they want to understand what is this group all about, right? At this stage, people try to understand the group purpose. They determine how the team is going to be organized and who will be responsible for what. So they discuss major phases of the group goals, like, what work is to be done, what are the general group rules, like that means who will do what, when will we meet, uh, such kind of things. So this is the stage where the team members will learn what to do, how to how to perform something, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, all such kind of things they understand at this stage. The next stage is the storming stage. This stage is also known as the power struggle stage, right? So this is the second stage. The first stage I told you, there are no disputes, no conflicts, nothing, right? No disagreements. But this stage, the second stage, there are disputes. Competition is very high because by now people have understood the work and there is a general feel of belongingness towards the group, right? So, and in this stage, things like, who's a dominating member, who's a confrontational member, who's a less confrontational member, who prefers to stay in their comfort zone, all such kind of things tend to emerge, right? So issues like, leadership, authority, rules, norms I told you just now, acceptable behavior, right? Responsibilities, all these arise during this stage. So mm, now you must be wondering, if there is see, first stage there is no conflict, no dispute, no difference. Second stage, I told you there are conflicts, there are disputes, there are questions that could be asked. Why? But so you might get an impression that first stage is good, but second stage is bad. But that is not so. This every stage is essential. Every stage is important. So uh, a group cannot move to the next stage before passing through the stage, storming stage. It's not possible for a group to move to the the norming stage, the performing stage, without going through the storming stage. See, it is like a child a child learns to walk. Initially, the child falls down when it is trying to walk. So, can we say that the child should not go through that phase and directly start walking properly? That is not possible. So, the child has to learn to walk, it has to fall, it has to get hurt, it has to get up. All those things have to happen. So, this storming stage is also inevitable. But when do things go wrong? What happens in dysfunctional groups is storming stage tends to continue over a very long period of time. That means people are just questioning, competing, arguing with one another, having disputes, disagreements. They, these things are not settling down. In functional groups, what happens? The storming stage continues for some period, and then things settle down. But when is the problem? When does the problem arise? When things never settle down, when people are just constantly arguing and fighting and not doing their work. So the next stage is norming stage. This is the stage of cooperation and integration. Uh, you know, um, this is the stage where everything is settling down. All the disputes, disagreements, differences are settling down. People now understand each other better, and they start enjoying working together, right? So group interactions become easier. Environment is very, very cooperative and productive. And there is a lot of mutual give and take, lot of open communications, bonding, and a lot of mutual respect among the group members. So disputes and conflicts are comparatively easy to be resolved, and the group gets back on track very easily, very fast, right? In this stage, what happens usually? The team leader or the facilitator, they usually step back a little and they let the group members take the initiative, right? So that is the norming stage. Next, coming to performing stage. Now, this is the stage. This is the important stage. This is the stage uh, where the group actually performs. So this stage is also called a synergy stage. So by now, the group is very, very clear about its needs. It moves forward to work for those goals for which it is formed. So the group really becomes united to perform. The group is very, very focused on its work. So at this stage, the morale of the group members is very high. They actively acknowledge the talent, the skills, and the experience that each member brings into the group. At this stage, there is a very high sense of belongingness amongst the group members, right? So members are very flexible, they're interdependent, and they trust each other. And leadership also, is distributive. That means there is no one person who will always say that, I am the leader, I will do everything. It's not like that. Leadership abilities are being distributed, right? And members also willingly adapt to the needs of the group. The next stage is the adjourning stage. Adjourning stage is also known as the stage of closure. Now, see, there are two types of groups, permanent groups and temporary groups. Temporary groups are those groups which are created for accomplishment of some specific objective, for completion of some project. So, such kind of temporary groups come to this adjourning stage. Whereas permanent groups, they don't come to this adjourning stage at all, right? So, I repeat once again, though there are 5 stages of group development, all groups don't pass through all these 5 stages. Groups which are permanent in nature, they don't come till the adjourning stage. Whereas groups which are time-based, which are formed in order to just, complete a project, complete an assignment, they come to this 5th stage, that is the adjourning stage or the closure stage, right? Now, usually in this stage, members are kind of disinterested because they know that, now their tenure in this group is about to end. Now they have to, move forward and they have to look in different direction, right? This stage looks more at the, well-being of the team rather than, how to handle the team, right? So these are the different stages of group that we have discussed. The next is, let us try to understand what are the different types of groups. Okay, just a second. Yeah. Groups can be classified into two types: formal groups or informal groups. So formal groups are those groups which are defined by the organization structure, or in other words, formal groups are those groups which are created by the organization itself. So take for example, there is a department. That department has one head of the department, then one senior manager, two junior managers, five management trainees. The organization has designed. It is the organization which said that there will be two assistant managers, three junior managers. The organization has decided that Ravi will be the manager, Sham will be the junior manager. So everything is defined by the organization structure. Such kind of groups are known as formal groups. These groups are designated with work assignments, and they have some established tasks, right? So people do not have a choice. Yeah, if I am a member of team A or team B, department A or department B, it is not I who made that choice. It is the organization who made that decision, right? Whereas coming to the next type, informal groups. Informal groups are completely opposite to that of formal group. So informal groups, they can be referred to as alliances. That means they are not formally structured. They are not organizationally determined. That means the organization does not decide who will be the junior manager or how many assistant managers will be there. Nothing. Organization has no role to play. These are natural formations. Informal groups can also be called as natural formations. That means people become part of these groups because of the social interactions that they have with one another. So, while having lunch, people might talk to one another and become groups. Or if there is an office bus or an office cab, people from different teams or different departments might be traveling in those buses or cabs. Then they might become friends. Or, there is a large MNC that there are people who are from one particular region, one particular state, or people from one particular college. They might all come together and become friends or groups. Right? So that is an informal group, right? Now, formal groups also can be classified as command groups and task groups. So, command groups are these are dictated by the organization, where the organization chart determines the command group, right? Whereas task groups are those again, see, task groups are also organizationally determined, but they represent those working together to complete a job task, right? So a task group boundaries are not limited to its immediate hierarchical superior. See, task groups can cross command relationships. For example, if a college student is accused of some campus crime or something like that, it may require communication, coordination among the Dean of Academic Affairs, Dean of Students, Registrar, Director of Security, Students Advisor, and all these things, right? See, all command groups are also task groups, but the reverse is not true. That means all task groups are not command groups, right? So these are the two types of formal groups. Informal groups again are of two types: interest groups and friendship groups, right? So what are interest groups? Interest groups is where people affiliate to attain a specific social objective with which each is concerned. See, take for example, I'm very um, I'm very much interested into uh, promoting greenery in the world, in our city. So there might be other people who also must be having similar kind of interests. So we all might come together and form a group that is known as an interest group. Or I might be a person who's interested in, educating children belonging to slum areas. There could be others who have similar interests like that. So we all could come together and form a group. This is an interest group. What are friendship groups? Friendship groups where people form groups because of common characteristics, right? So people of same age, or people who studied in same college, people who stay in the same locality, same ethnic background, they all might form groups. Such groups are known as friendship groups, right? Now these friendship groups are also very important because they satisfy the social needs of individuals. See, again, even formal groups uh, are classified into different types based on the work that they do, right? So there are a lot of different types. I have listed a few here. Production groups. So who are production groups? Production groups are all those frontline employees who produce some tangible output. That means some product, a table, somebody who manufactures a table or somebody who manufactures a chair. That group is known as a production group. So, autonomous production groups are mostly self-directed, um, and they have a dedicated supervisor who oversees all the operations of that particular group. Then service groups consist of those employees who work with customers, right? A bank employee, some customer care executive, right? Sales groups executive. These are all service groups. So they're not producing any product, any tangible product. They are all into service, right? The next one is management groups. So you've seen what is a production group, you've seen what is a service group. The next is a management group. So the management group consists of an executive or a senior manager, uh, along with the manager who directly report to him, right? So these management groups are also um, strategic groups, top level groups, right? So they organize themselves towards goals such as, they are involved in policy making, budgeting, staffing, planning, such kind of things, right? Coming to the next type of groups, the next type of group are known as project groups. So these project groups are cross-functional groups of individuals, right? And these groups are brought together for the duration of a specific time-limited project. So these projects are usually disbanded once the project is complete, right? The next one is action and performing groups. So these are groups that usually consist of experts, specialists, right? Who perform some complex time limited performance events like, something very, very specific, right? So next coming to advisory groups. So advisory groups are employees that are outside uh, or maybe those that work parallel with the regular teams, right? So quality circles, selection committees, advisory groups, advisory panels, all of them exist along with the main teams, main groups, but they work in parallel to them, right? So they give them advice, they give them suggestions, they are there for consultation. Such kind of groups are known as advisory groups, right? So these are the different types of groups as far as formal setting is concerned. The next topic that we are going to discuss is group cohesiveness. Okay, just a second. Okay. The next topic that we're going to discuss is Group cohesiveness, right? So what exactly is group cohesiveness? Group cohesiveness is the attraction, loyalty, and commitment of members to the group goals, right? It is the degree to which members are attracted to a group, are motivated to remain in a group, and are mutually influenced by one another. See, if I have to tell you this in simple terms, a group where members have strong bonding, right? A group where members have strong bonding, where members, desperately want to be a part of a group, are very strongly attracted to one another in the group. Such kind of groups are said to have high cohesiveness. Okay. So, what is group cohesiveness? Group cohesiveness is the degree to which members are attracted to the group, and the extent to which members share the group goals, right? That is what is group cohesiveness. Now, what are the factors that determine cohesiveness? Okay, let us try to see that. See, cohesiveness, group cohesiveness to a certain extent is very good, is advisable, has, positive outcomes, right? But how to increase this cohesiveness? What are the factors that determine cohesiveness? Let us see. Okay. So members of a cohesive group, they share common goals. They remain attached to one another. They conform to group standards, and unitedly they work to achieve the goals. So so uh, there are some factors which lead to increase of group cohesiveness. There are some factors which lead to decrease of group cohesiveness. Right? So what are those factors which increase group cohesiveness? See, when members of a group have similar attitudes, values, beliefs, common interests, then that group tends to be highly cohesive, right? Why is it like that? See, when people have same attitude, same values, same beliefs, communication between them becomes easier. Understanding is easier, right? It is. See, take for example, mm, I tend to understand somebody who's in my age group better rather than somebody who's a teenager or somebody who's 70 years old, right? So it becomes easier for me to communicate with person of my age, or having same beliefs as mine. So that is one factor which can increase group cohesiveness. The next factor that increases cohesiveness is intergroup competition. Intergroup competition. That means if this group has to compete with somebody else in order to achieve their goal, then they tend to become cohesive. See, we said every group has a goal to achieve, right? So if a particular group, in order to achieve its goal, has to compete with so many others, then cohesiveness is much stronger. Whereas, a group can achieve its goal or objective very easily, just like that, then the group does not tend to be cohesive, right? Then the next reason is liking and attraction for each other. If people have that genuine interpersonal attraction, that genuine liking for one another, then they tend to be highly cohesive, right? Next is success in group goals promotes group cohesiveness. So if a group is achieving its goals, it tends to be more cohesive. Whereas a group that is failing, that is experiencing failures, that is not achieving its goals, that is not achieving its targets, that group tends to disintegrate. Cohesiveness in such kind of groups tends to reduce. Right? The next one is size of the group also determines its cohesiveness. That means groups that are smaller in size are more cohesive than big groups, right? And the next thing is consensus on group goals. If everybody has a common understanding of what group goals they want to achieve, then that increases cohesiveness. And the next thing is interdependence. That means if members are dependent on each other, members need one another in order to, get the work done, get the tasks done, then that group is more cohesive. So these are the factors which increase cohesiveness. Now let us try to understand the factors that decrease cohesiveness. So, when members are not strongly bonded to each other, um, uh, that reduces group cohesiveness. So let us understand the factors that decrease group cohesiveness. First one is increase in size of the group. Large groups, okay? Large groups tend to be less cohesive, right? And again, when members have conflicting opinions, when members have different values and opinions from one another, such kind of groups also tend to be less cohesive, right? See, what did I tell you earlier, previous slide? If there is a lot of intergroup competition, group cohesiveness increases. But if there is intra-group competition means there is competition among the group members. There is competition amongst the group members. That means instead of competing with other groups, members are competing amongst themselves. Then in such kind of a situation, group cohesiveness tends to reduce. And then another reason also is when groups have very dominant members. See, if groups have very dominant members, then what happens? Less dominant members have to surrender to the views of the more dominant members. This also declines group cohesiveness, right? And unpleasant group interactions, like where people have to shout at one another, or quarrel with one another, or fight with one another because of different personality traits or because of different attitudes, beliefs. Over a period of time, this decreases cohesiveness, right? And involvement in activities outside the group. If group members are involved in a lot of activities outside the group, and there is a lot of competition amongst the members for resources within the group, then also you see reduced group cohesiveness, right? Um, the next thing is heterogeneous groups. Heterogeneous groups means where members are different from one another. Maybe members are from different age groups, different qualifications, different job responsibilities, right? Different nature, different personality traits. Such groups also tend to be less cohesive. Now, is group cohesiveness good or bad? Does group cohesiveness have advantages or disadvantages? Group cohesiveness has a lot of advantages. Okay, what are those advantages? Let us first see. Uh, Group cohesiveness increases or strengthens the group goals and norms. That means, people in a group that is strongly cohesive, people tend to be more strongly oriented towards achieving the goal, right? They perceive the management as very supportive, and they tend to perform better. Productivity is better in a cohesive group. Members very openly communicate with one another. Uh, every person tries to understand the feelings and emotions of others. And as far as decision making is concerned, in a cohesive group, everybody comes together and collectively takes decisions, right? So, people also have a very high satisfaction level when they are a part of a cohesive group, right? But uh, cohesiveness is not always good. There are, see, one second, just a second. Look at this diagram. Cohesiveness is high and performance norms are also high, then it is good. But if performance norms are low and cohesiveness is high, this does not lead to high productivity. On the other hand, this leads to low productivity, right? So it is not just enough if an organization has high cohesiveness. They should also have high performance standards. So that is what this diagram tells you. In fact, if performance norms are low, then it is better for cohesiveness also to be low. In such situation, what happens? At least you would see moderate productivity, moderate to low productivity. High cohesiveness with low performance norms is very, very dangerous. Because see what happens when performance norms are low, one person says we will not do this, everyone will, follow that. Whereas if cohesiveness is low, there might be some who might question. They might say, no, why are you doing like this? Why can't we do it like this? Things like that. That will not happen if performance norms are low. Just a second. Yeah. What are the consequences of cohesiveness? What happens if a group is more cohesive? First one, you would see more participation. Okay. So the higher the degree of group cohesiveness, closer will be the interpersonal relationships among the members. Right? So as a result, what happens, all the members very actively participate in group affairs and activities. And as the members consider the group as their own, just like a family, they help other members of the groups in times of need, which will, it will strengthen their bonds, right? And the turnover of the members is also very low. That means members don't leave groups. They tend to be a part of that group. And, members very, very willingly and happily attend the group meetings, group activities. They take part in discussions relating to, preparation of strategies and all. There is a lot of participation, right? Next one is there is more conformity. That means, see, one of the factors which influences cohesiveness is similar attitudes, similar values. So members, tend to like each other and they tend to perceive themselves as similar. So these characteristics lead members to be relatively dependent on the group for their own satisfaction, and they are susceptible to being influenced. So, for example, if any member is getting involved in organizational politics to increase or enhance his own personal group goals, the group might put a lot of social pressure on him. It might make him comply with the group norms. So the organization or the team leader or the manager does not have to come and do anything about it. The group members themselves will pressurize him to follow the group norms. And see, there is a direct link between success, that means achievement of goals, and cohesiveness, right? So cohesiveness makes the goal achievement easier, right? And the reason for this is that higher degree of cohesiveness leads to higher degree of communication, higher degree of participation, higher conformity to group norms. So, such coordinated efforts, they result in agreement about the goals to be achieved, the methods of achieving them, and finally achieving the final goals, right? Then greater communication. Members of cohesive groups, they communicate with each other more than the members of non-cohesive or less cohesive groups. And since the members share common ideologies, goals, backgrounds, or attitudes, they are inclined to have greater communicativeness amongst them, right? So such communication, what it does is it tends to foster and it tends to build positive social relationships, and very strong and deep personal relationships also. See, all the benefits that we discussed so far seem to benefit the organization, like productivity is better, profitability is better, conformance to group norms is better, and all that. But do individuals also benefit from that? From working in a cohesive group? Yes, individuals also benefit from working in personal groups, because it gives them more personal satisfaction. Members of cohesive groups are more satisfied as compared to members of non-cohesive groups, right? Because why is it like that? Because if members are not satisfied, they will leave the group. They will join some other groups, and members are more satisfied due to many factors, like friendliness, the respect that they get from the others, the support that they get from the others, the achievement, protection, and that feeling of security, all these things, right? Okay. So so if a manager, so we listed out all the benefits of cohesiveness. Now if a manager wants to increase cohesiveness, what is it that the manager can do, right? The manager can make the group smaller. So if a manager feels that the groups or teams under him are not cohesive, their cohesive levels are low, then what he can do is he can make smaller sized groups, smaller sized teams. So if he has a 10-member team, maybe he can make two teams out of it with 10 members each, right? Then he increase the time members spend together. See, um, if the manager can make sure that group members spend more time with each other, that also increases their cohesiveness. See, you must have heard about this. MNCs, they take their employees out for lunches. They take them for picnics. They take them to a resort and all those things. Why do you think they do that? One reason for that, see, there are many reasons. They want to reduce the stress levels of their employees and all that. But another reason is they want to increase the cohesiveness. They know that if members spend more time with each other, such kind of members tend to be more cohesive, and highly cohesive groups are highly productive. So the money that the company is spending on the movie or that team lunch or that resort is not going waste. It will translate into strongly bonded teams. Then the next one is increase the status of the group and the perceived difficulty of getting membership of the group. So if members feel that it is very difficult to become a part of this group, automatically the cohesiveness tends to increase. Then stimulate competition with other groups. If the group is having competition from other members, right, then that group tends to be more. That group tends to have more competition amongst them. Then one more thing that a manager can do is manager can bring about a change in the incentive system. That means instead of rewarding members, if the organization is the manager is rewarding the team, then cohesiveness increases. Whereas if you're rewarding members, then members become self-centered. They don't look at themselves as a part of a group, or they don't work for the benefit of the group, right? Then physical isolation also. If members are physically isolated from other groups, that also tends to increase their cohesiveness. Increasing the homogeneity of the members, that means try to make groups where members are more or less similar, where members are more or less homogeneous. Then increase interaction among the members. If a manager can make sure that more and more interaction happens amongst members, then their cohesiveness tends to reduce. Now, I told you group cohesiveness is good, but if performance norms are low, then high degree of cohesiveness is bad. So then manager might have to actually work on trying to reduce cohesiveness. So what is it that the manager can do? The manager can, maybe increase member heterogeneity, that is bringing different types of members. restrict interaction amongst the members, increase the group size, right? And maybe allocate rewards to individuals rather than groups. There we said, to increase cohesiveness, we said give them group goals, don't group incentives, don't give them individual incentives. Here it is the other way around, right? The next topic that we're going to discuss is decision making. Okay, decision making. So what exactly is decision making? Decision making is the process of choosing one best option from multiple options that are available, right? Uh, Decision making is, see, management is all about taking decisions, right? Management is all about taking decisions. See, decision making, it is crucial for achieving goals. It is crucial for solving problems, for ensuring success in personal and organizational contexts, right? A manager can become a good manager when that manager takes good decisions. A manager can be called a successful manager or a good manager when that manager has taken good decisions. So you see how important decision making is. If a manager does not take good decisions, then he cannot be treated as a good manager, right? So decision making process is a step-by-step process, right? Only when you go through these steps one after the other, then a manager can make more deliberate and more thoughtful decisions, right? So following these steps is very, very important. This step-by-step approach, what it does is it increases the chances that a manager will choose the most satisfying alternative possible. So what are the various steps? The various steps. Step one is identify the decision. See, first thing is you need to realize that you need to make a decision. You have to try to clearly define the nature of the decision that you must make. So this first step is very, very important. If what decision is to be taken, what is the nature of the decision, if that clarity is not there, then everything else fails, right? So identifying the decision is the first and the foremost step and a very important step. Next one is gather relevant information. So, to make a correct decision, lot of relevant information needs to be collected, right? What information is needed? What are the best sources of information and how to collect that information? All this thing needs to be decided, right? So this step involves both internal as well as external work. That means, see, some information is internal. So we can just get it through a process of self-assessment. On the other hand, some information is external. We'll have to ask others. We'll have to collect it from other people. We have to collect it from other online resources. So that is what it means. Step 3 is identifying the alternatives. So see, as you collect information, you will identify that, there are several paths of actions or several alternatives. Like, for example, a student who's in 10th class, what can the student do after the 10th? So the student will identify that, there are different options. They can study science, they can study commerce, they can study arts, they can, get into a polytechnic college. These are the various, several paths of action, several alternatives, right? And here, the decision maker can use their imagination, their additional information to uncover even new alternatives, right? So this is the step where a manager has to list all the possible and desirable alternatives. Step 4. Step 4 is weighing the evidence, right? Weighing the evidence. That means from all the information that has been collected, you have to evaluate, right? You have to evaluate as to, what are the various pros and cons, what are the various advantages and disadvantages in the various alternatives, right? So evaluating the alternatives, that is step 4. Step 5 is choosing amongst the alternatives. Right? So once you have assessed as to what are the advantages and disadvantages of the various alternatives, you have to now select the alternative that seems to be the best one for you. So you may, sometimes you may even have to maybe choose a combination of alternatives also, right? So this step is very likely to be similar to the alternative that you placed at the top of your list, right? Step 6 is take actions. Now, this is the stage where you actually have to take action, where you actually have to implement whatever alternative you have chosen. Now, step 7 is reviewing step. This is also again important. See, sometimes we take a decision. Whether that decision is the correct decision or not, that we will know only when time passes. As time passes, we will know whether that was the right decision or not. So, what you have to do is you have to review your decision. You have to check your decisions, understand its consequences, whether whatever you have done, is it right or not. That you have to understand. That is step 7. One second. The next one is nature of decision making. Uh, why is decision making so important? Decision making is important because it is a goal oriented activity, right? Decision making is, that means, why do we take decisions? We take decisions in order to achieve a goal, in order to achieve an objective. See, take for example, painting is your hobby. So once in a while, whenever you feel like, you just sit up and paint. So there you spend a lot of time in deciding what should I paint? Should I paint this or should I paint that? No, nothing much. Whatever you feel like painting at that point of time, you paint. That's it. But but where you have a goal, where you have a clear objective, their decision making becomes very, very important. Next one is decision making is a dynamic process. That means there is a time element involved in it, right? So that needs to be carefully taken into consideration. So today I am taking one decision. Will this decision be applicable even after 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years? That is what we have to understand, right? The next one is continuous or ongoing process. It is not like manager takes one decision and next 5 years or next 2 years he does not have to take a decision. No, it is a continuous process. He takes a decision, then he has to review that decision. If it is not found good, then he might have to take another decision. So that is a continuous and an ongoing process. And the next characteristic of decision making, it is an intellectual process. It is a rational process. That means, see, there is so much of reasoning involved in it. There is so much of deliberation and evaluation. It is involved in decision making. It's an intellectual process. So, see, you must be seeing children. If they want to decide between two things, they just stretch out their two fingers and say, "You pick one thing." This is not decision making. There is no reasoning here. There is no deliberation here. There is no evaluation here, right? So decision making involves a lot of reasoning, deliberation, and evaluation, right? Next, set of alternatives. See, decision making implies a set of alternatives. As a decision problem arises only when there are two or more alternatives. If there is just one alternative, there is no question of decision making. Like, school students wear a uniform every day. So they don't get up every day and decide what to wear. But whereas college students, employees, they have to spend some time in thinking, what should I wear today? Whereas school students don't have that headache at all because no alternatives, no decisions, right? So when you look at all these things, what is it that you understand? See, decision making is a very complex and a dynamic process, right? Now, whatever decisions are taken, that decisions should give the best desired outcomes. And, all the uh, possibilities, they have to be analyzed. All the risk that might arise, that has to be taken into account. Every information should be acquired. Only then decisions should be taken. Right? Group decision making. The next topic that we need to know is decision making in groups. So wherever decisions are collectively taken, where people come together and take decisions, such decision making is called as group decision making. Why is group decision making important? See, when one person takes a decision, uh, he might not have too many ideas with him. He might not be very creative, right? But when more people come in, everybody uses their knowledge, everybody uses their own ideas, their own experiences, their own creativity. So, such kind of decisions which are taken by more number of people, group decisions tend to be better, tend to be more realistic, right? But again, there are also some potential disadvantages also. What could those disadvantages be? Group decisions tend to be time consuming. It takes a lot of time to come to group decisions, right? And sometimes people never arrive at a common process. Again, the decision making process is also similar as any group decision. No, this we have already discussed. Yeah. Yeah. Coming to how do you compare individual decision making and group decision making? The first biggest advantage is speed, efficiency. Individual decisions are very, very fast. And because in an individual decision, one person takes a decision, there is a lot of accountability. So people feel that they are solely responsible for the outcome, which is not there in a group decision, right? Whereas group, those are the advantages, but there are also some disadvantages. Like limited perspective. One person can only have this much of experience, can have only so much of knowledge. So maybe sometimes the decisions could be suboptimal decisions taken by individuals. And sometimes, some individuals could be affected by certain biases, which might lead to irrational choices, or there might be people who might avoid taking tough decisions, or there might be people who are very, very risky, right? So all these are some of the problems associated with individual decisions. Coming to advantages of group decision making, different perspectives, because there are different people, you have many different perspectives, and problem solving becomes better. There is better information processing because uh, see, one person collects this much of data, this much of information, but there are so many people, lot of information processing happens. And there is a tendency of reduced bias. Since there is not one person involved, there are so many people involved. So, the chances of um, reduced biases are seen, right? But again, group decisions also have their own challenges. They're very time consuming, right? And sometimes it is so possible that, group decisions or too much of group decision making might force individuals not to think differently. People might all think in one line, or which could lead to just one dominant person taking all the decisions and all others just blindly following those decisions, right? So these are the topics for today. This was about group dynamics and decision making. I will stop for now. The remaining units I will continue in tomorrow's class. Thank you, one. Thank you, all of you.